Hey everybody, and welcome to this evening's live YAWA with me and her, because we're here again this week, with y'all. This is episode 77, and if you looked at the thumbnail and the description, this episode, if you will, is about creating legacies, or the punniness behind that. Our new puppy's name is Legacy, and which was a kind of a thought process Kat had, and then a recommendation slash solidification. I don't think that's a word. Of everybody thinking that was a great idea, because we got a whole bunch of people saying you should name her Legacy. So guess what? That is the puppy's name. And I will say I was skeptical. I was like, I don't really know. How do you yell Legacy across the field? Oh, we'll shorten it or whatever. It rolls off the tongue pretty good, and it fits her. Seems to, anyhow. She understands it well.
I agree.
This evening, we're going to be talking about a few different things. First and foremost, I want to say, if you are a fan of the things that we do, the best way to support that is via Patreon. Patreon.com/Standing Stone Kennels. We have a dog training community set up there where we answer people's questions on the daily. If you have questions, and a lot of folks do, about where they're at in training or what their dog is doing, that is the best place to reach out to us. The other side of it is every video that we create, the time that we put into these live YAWAs, and the equipment that it takes to be able to do all of this, all is primarily funded by the Patreon account. So if you love what we're doing and you want to be a part of supporting that, or have questions and also want to help support, reach out to us there. The second to that would be anything that we use and recommend, or you see in one of our videos, is available, or almost all of it is available at standingstonesupply.com. Again, that's standingstonesupply.com. Check it out if you're looking for training gear for your new puppy or your current dog, or need a fancy new collar. We've got those too. All right, so as far as things upcoming, we like to do a little of this, and then we're going to go into talking about Legacy herself, and kind of the path in which we've taken to that, and the path that we've taken through breeding, developing, and kind of creating a
Line of our own.
Absolutely.
So I see a whole bunch of people checking in. Don't want to forget about that. We've got the Canadian Rocky Mountains, Boise, Idaho, Utah, Boston, Mass, St. Cloud, Minnesota, Utah, Cottonwood, California. And we've got Kelly Hay from New Jersey.
I hit the record button. Thank you for the reminder.
And Angelo from Stony Creek, New York, all the way back home with Frida now. He drove out and picked up a puppy this last weekend. More from Utah. And we've got Wisconsin. Hey, Melanie and Duncan and Dawn from Minnesota. Watching from Mississippi. Quebec, Canada. Cool. Pennsylvania. Oh, hey, Ashley, you got Ginger home. She's from Oklahoma. She also came out and picked up a puppy this weekend. Ginger maybe not be listening tonight, but she might be cuddling up and being super sweet. Long Island, New York. I saw a couple Australias, Oklahoma, Australia, Wisconsin, New Jersey, Colorado. Lots and lots of check-ins. That's awesome. Winslow, Maine, Moore, Ontario, Canada. Oh, no. Yeah. Ancaster, Ontario, and I'm assuming that's in Canada. Texas. Scott Lemon from Phillipsburg, Kansas. Tennessee, Ohio. Awesome. So if you're new to tuning into our live YAWA, you will maybe not know the drill, but we usually talk about a topic. This week's topic, we're going to talk about how legacies are born, are made, and then after the beginning, topic of conversation, we'll move into answering questions. So if you end up asking a question in the comments here, we will get to those towards the end. If you have a question that's just burning a hole in your pocket and you really have to have it answered tonight, definitely anybody that puts a super chat in does get priority to getting those questions answered. So
can we get a soundbite of Kat yelling, "Rogue"? I'd use it as my text notification.
Rogue!
There's a few. We started a little process of creating some sound bites, and I was like, nobody would ever want to use those. And I was like, I guess maybe some people would.
I actually, speaking of yelling names across the field and things like that, and kind of a segue into talking about legacies. So Nix, one of our dogs, who was the first dog that I ever took to advanced levels of training and testing, I ran him through masters, and you know those learning situations where you learn from your mistakes and you kind of do everything wrong? Nix was one of those.
Been there.
Nix was that dog for me. I made lots of mistakes with him. Did he turn out all right? For sure, but definitely made some mistakes with him, including not conditioning his recall and obedience super well, especially when he was off collar. Ethan actually did a funny little drill with me once using a beeper collar instead of the regular collar because I like to use vibrate instead of stimulation for corrections, and he caught me because the same button on the 1820 is vibrate, and on the 1850 it's actually the beeper locate button. So when I would go to vibrate Nix, it would go beep, 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 and I'd be like, dang it, now Ethan knows I was using vibrate or was trying to use vibrate. But anyway, Anyway, so I actually had some judges in AKC when I was running him through masters that also crossed over and were judges for NAVDA, and I ran him through masters, and then I ran him through utility to qualify him for the invitational. And same judges, and they're like, we're going to get you a shirt, or we're going to get shirts that are for Team Cat, and then on the back it says Nix, weep weep, because that's what I did. I had a little whistle, and
it would be weep weep Nix.
Weep weep Nix.
Yeah, tweet Nix.
Yeah, tweet Nix, because I would literally yell at him the entire time, and he just blew me off. So learned a lot of things about, like I said, what not to do when training and handling, and basically learned that he had to be a little more proofed before going to the field. But anyway, that would have been a soundbite for sure.
Tweet.
Yeah.
You used one of those little English whistles, so it always sounded really cute. Tweet, and then you would
and
yell.
then my mom mean voice that he still ignored. So
100%.
Yeah. He knew he could get away with it. So.
And a competitive little bastard. So he would,
Yeah.
I mean, the second he cut off the line, his goal is to outrun the dog that he's running with. So if you had somebody that he was braced with that was a little harder worker, then they were going to harder worker themselves a quarter to half a mile from you.
Which is very stressful.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, I had major anxiety every time I ran him in the field. So
I don't know that I've ever had a dog that quite did. Oh, yes. Creek. Okay? Loved Creek.
Oh, come on. There were more than just Creek.
No. That ran that big.
Oh, ran that big. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, and this is off topic totally, but it's kind of a fun story. This Creek is a setter, a Gordon setter, really nice little field-bred Gordon setter. And it is... all of the things that we do in the past, and this kind of goes into creating, this falls kind of in line with what we were talking about. You learn from everything, though, right? So in that situation, and I don't pick to be picking, but I would work with Creek, and then his dad would pick him up and run him at the tests, which I knew at the time it wasn't a great idea, and it shined through a horrible idea because he didn't have enough time for handling. it wasn't a bad idea for me to train him and then his dad handle him, but we needed more time in between the handoff, which was like right before the test. You know, I mean, okay, now you're running him. Well, which
so
as a
that
handler
Creek could learn that his dad
meant something. Yeah.
and he had to listen to him just the same way he'd been listening to Ethan.
And the kiss of death was he was well enough trained and prepared for the first event and didn't know any better. So he went out and got 2 passes and then 0 more.
For a very long time.
For a very long time. And then finally he just said, hey, he's yours. You see if you can finish this crap. And said, okay. And we did very quickly. But there was a lot of, because it was consistent then. It was me training him, then me handling him. And we had that understanding and ability to work together and understand each other. But though in that process, he changed drastically the way he ran and handled. And I remember the last test, one of the last tests that he ran, he did that. I mean, he broke away with this other dog and ran the whole course out, and we found him on point in the bird field.
Was that in Kansas?
Yes. A big, open, wide open field. No, he wasn't pointing. He was backing. So we found him backing in the bird field. The other dog and him were racing, like I was talking about, foot race dogs. So he's running, and I try and handle him, and he doesn't listen. And I gave him a little bit to run, and then I tried to handle him a little harder when he kind of made a loop back this way, and I was like, he is not listening at all. So at that point, you
just follow the dog.
You just try and keep up because there's absolutely nothing you can do, and he's proven that. So they pop up over the hill, and I'm like foot racing through this thing. The guy's like, the faster you walk, the farther we've got to go. I'm like, yeah, I know. I'm just trying to keep up with this damn dog. So we
it did not help that he's field trial bred as well.
Oh yeah.
He likes to roll.
He's and looks good doing it. High crack and tail, all the fun things. So we roll up over the hill, and there he is. And I can see him at this point. I see this little black dot. Okay, he's like 400 or 500 yards, maybe 600 yards away when we finally spot him. And I'm like, he's on point down there. Oh no, he's backing. Cool. So we get all the way down there, and he handled it clean, perfectly fine. Went on, found his bird, did everything right. So it was cool, but nerve-wracking.
I feel you, and I've been there, done that. And not that we don't get nervous anytime we're handling dogs, because we truly care, and we want to do well, and we want the dogs to do well, but some of those dogs take it to the next level of nervousness, and it's just full-on anxiety.
I have butterflies walking the line every single time, and I feel like I am going to vomit until about 10 minutes into the 30-minute brace. Then usually by 10 minutes in, I have walked most of those jitters out if we haven't already found a bird and been disqualified, or found a bird and handled it clean. Usually then again, I have worked the jitters out within about 10 minutes, and it's like, all right, now where are you going to try and screw me over? Us over, dog. That's where we're just trying to keep my eye on. And then the judge is right here behind you trying to chit-chat, oh, hey, how's your summer been, Like, good. Watching my dog the entire time, trying to make sure that I
can be prepared
I am
to handle.
working here. This is not my just weekend fun event here. Everybody that has ever run into me at a hunt test says, I didn't know if I was supposed to approach him or not. He seemed
very intense.
Very intense. I'm like, just focused, y'all. I mean, I like to win. It's not a competition, but I like to do well. I like to perform well. So
yeah, you're competing against a standard for sure.
Yeah.
So. Anyway, so let's talk about legacies, and let's talk about what that means to us. So I don't know if you guys studied the thumbnail at all, but it was a pretty cool picture, pretty cool opportunity for us to get a picture like that, where we have 6 generations in one photo. Grandpa Rex, then Nix, the good old boy we were just talking about, and then his son Vex, his daughter Muddy, then her son Thunder, and then Thunder's little baby, Legacy. So pretty cool. We've got great Grandpa Rex now. We just call him Grandpa Rex still. But and it just so happened that every puppy, every dog in that picture was a black and white short hair. Now, that is not the goal of our breeding program, is to only produce black and white or keep black and white dogs. It literally just happens that way, where, for example, Legacy's mom is Quest. Quest is liver and white. We have Trix, who's another baby.
Well, you
of
can
Quest,
go down that entire
and
line.
that's a liver and white dog. We've got Grit, who's liver and white. Shooter's liver and white. We've got liver and white dogs, people.
It's I think 50-50 split in the dogs that we own, liver versus black dogs.
Pretty close, Hazel, that sort of thing. But it just happened in that picture with that situation with each of the dogs to be all black and white. So still turned out like a cool picture, but not 100% the intention there, especially not the intention to portray that we're only breeding black and white short hairs.
Well, we could have done the same level of generations removed from Rex and included little...
Yeah, because it would have been, we could have done Grit, or, so Rex, we don't own Darby, but that was what produced Nyx. Then Nyx and Vino, which Vino now lives with a good friend of ours, so we don't own her, which she was liver and white as well, produced Vex. And then we could have thrown Grit into the picture because Grit and Vex made Muddy. We don't own Benny, but he's liver and white, and he was the stud dog that produced Thunder. And then we could have thrown Quest into the picture because Quest and Thunder made Legacy. So there were some liver and white dogs that could have been thrown into the mix, but believe me, taking that picture with the 6 dogs, and mostly just the puppy, was a little bit, I don't even want to say that challenging because everyone behaved really well except the puppy kept falling off the steps.
Yeah, everyone was really good. Grandpa is... Like, so my grandfather, actually, and this was not coincidental or named after, I mean, it's coincidental. He was not named after or namesake of, but my grandpa, my dad's father, his name is Rex. And where our dog Rex is at reminds me of my grandpa Rex, just kind of hunched over old man, grumpy old man, you know, and, Rex sitting on the porch, he doesn't move. Once you get him situated, stay here, buddy. He's like,
I will sit here.
And every single picture looks exactly the same of him.
Yeah.
Nyx never looks at the camera. He's always somewhere else.
Unless you get a bird.
And then usually he does pretty good. And then Vex is fairly focused and looks almost statue-like. He will be the next grandpa, probably.
Yep.
And then
Muddy is also not a camera looker.
No, Muddy was kind of eyes everywhere. And then Thunder did a pretty good job. Thunder's
a young dog.
Younger than the rest of them, so he lacked a little bit of
especially because he was also younger and then sitting next to the puppy that wanted to play and be wiggly and all the things. But it was still pretty fun to get the picture and turned out not as difficult as I kind of truly expected it to be. But
so let's talk a little bit about the path in which, and by no means do we feel like we're there and we're done. We're never going to get any better. We've got the best of the best of the best. That's not the case. We have really nice dogs and dogs that fall very heavily into the path of what we're trying to produce. Not all dogs are created equal. Not all short hairs are created equal, and not all
breeders are even breeding for the same characteristics.
Correct, and that's what I mean by that. It's not saying ours are better than somebody else's, but ours fall pretty heavily in a specific direction, and if you have somebody that's not breeding for those things, it's still not going to be the right fit for you unless that's what you're looking for. Roundabout way of saying. So when we look at the dogs that we're trying to produce, we're breeding family-oriented, versatile companions. And in that order, I would say that of the folks out there, and you can throw this in the comments here because I'm interested to know, how many days do you bird hunt a year? That can include waterfowl hunting, starting with early season.
Using your dogs for hunting.
Yeah,
I'm not talking turkey hunting where your dogs aren't out there doing their thing.
Unless you turkey hunt with your dogs. There are some places you can do that.
So
yep. But
I'm just saying, how many days a year do you hunt with your bird dog?
Yeah, so throw that in the comments below.
Because we're pretty curious.
100%.
We've been throwing out numbers, just assumptions of numbers, and we talk about it a little bit in kind of in regards to our hunting. I would say that you hunt 60 days a year.
Well, I mean, this year alone already, this season, and it's not over yet, I've hunted 30, roughly 55 to 60 range already.
And you still have a couple trips.
Yeah.
So 60 plus days a year.
60
but
plus
for
days.
us, when we're thinking about it, that's a lot. And there's people out there that do hunt more than that. And then there's people out there that do hunt quite a bit less than that. And when you think about 365 days that make up the year, even if you're hunting 60 days, 70 days, that still leaves almost 300 days a year that your dog is
Most
not
of 'em.
hunting or more. And for us, that means they have to be able to be a part of the family, settle down in the house 300 days out of the year.
Most of it. So,
Yeah.
which comes into that, family-oriented, versatile hunting companion, and in that order. So things that we look for in our breeding program are dogs that are livable, being key there, and they can have all of the ability in the world and not be livable, and they aren't going to stick around. We're going to find them a better situation for them, whether that's a one-dog home or a heavier working home. You know, there are some folks that guide. I know one gentleman's got a couple dogs from us. He probably runs 100 days or more a year guiding, and I think they start like September 1 and roll all the way through March. So how many months is that?
6. So half the year.
Yeah. So
All of September, all of October, all of November, all of December, all of January, all of February, all of March.
yeah. So he
7?
may
Oh,
run.
my math was bad. 7.
He may run 120 to 150 days. You know, because they don't hunt every single day, but in that time period, he may run 150 to 100 and some days, whatever. Well over 100, and that's a lot, right? That's a lot of days. But even still, that's 2/3 of the year the dog's a family companion. So
And for him, that's what they are.
yes.
Even though he works them hard, hunts them hard during the guiding season, during the evenings and the off days, they're still part of the family, living in the house with them. So our dogs have to be able to do both. And that's what we're breeding for. And I would say we do waterfowl hunt a little bit, but our primary focus is upland stuff. So I want that versatile companion that can make those waterfowl retrieves, as well as the adventure dog, if you will, that wants to go to the lake and swim with us and make retrieves out of the water and things like that, as well as can compete in NAVDA, hunt tests and things like that. So we still want water love, but we don't want to sacrifice bird dog for it.
So we've got 10 to 15, 15, 30, 30, 40, 10 to 15,
30 to
0,
40,
30 to 40, 25, 30,
40, 30.
26, new
50 to
record.
60.
Awesome. Yeah, so, I mean, some of you, what we expect, that 15 to 30 range. Some of you, or a couple of you, a few more to that, 40 to 60 range. That's a lot of days of hunting, but still leaves you 300 that they are part of the family. So it's definitely, I mean, the folks that are here fall in the category of the things we're looking for out of a bird dog. Now, there are a few things required in our opinion that you need in order to be able to advance in a breeding program or move in a specific direction, whether that's an advance or not. But
Well, that's what we're always trying to improve the breed. You said we're not there yet, right?
sure.
There's no such thing as a perfect dog.
No.
You can always be making improvements on the breed and improvements on your line. So you should never feel like you've reached the pinnacle of what you can create, what you can breed towards. But sorry, so I jumped in there. Continue.
No, absolutely. And what I'm saying, though, with this specifically is there's some things that you need in order to be able to advance. And I think that this is one thing that a lot, not everyone, but a lot of folks struggle with. And that is
Being an objective breeder.
objective honesty.
There you go.
Okay? So you have to be honest about what you have, because Kat mentioned it 100%. There is no such thing as a perfect dog. But then if you look at it and say, this is the perfect dog. I absolutely could not find anything wrong with this dog. Here is my brutally honest comment. You should not be breeding dogs or animals for that matter in general. Because if you can't find one thing wrong with that dog, first of all, I'd like to meet it.
That you'd like to improve on, if nothing else.
I'd like to meet it. If it is the perfect dog, I want to meet the dog. But two, you aren't going to be able to move in the direction that is better or any direction if you can't see what your dog's faults are. Now, sometimes I start explaining things to people and people
explaining what our dogs are.
Our dogs, yeah. And people will say, you just told me that's like the nicest dog you've ever owned or whatever. You know, if I talk about Bex, I will be objective. I will say these are the things that are good. These are the things that are bad. If we talk about Nicks or Muddy or Grit or any of them, I will say these are their strengths. These are their weaknesses because they all have both. And we try and find
fewer weaknesses, more strengths, and then
we try and find a complement.
Yes.
You know, a
dog
that
to breed to them.
Exactly. A dog that's strong where the other is weak. And then as we, you know, that may be this in the beginning. And it may be these farther apart things to begin with. These are the strengths and the weaknesses, and the two dogs are further apart. But then we find something that's in the middle, and then we can bring those together to where we can get closer to that. Very small differences one way or the other. You know, you're seeing...
And that allows us to produce very consistent litters then as well. Instead of having those outliers of puppies that have some of the strengths and some of the weaknesses at opposite ends of that spectrum, that we can start closing that gap. And we talk about our breeding program being a fine line and a balance act as well, because you get too far one direction, you lose some desire. You get too far the other direction, you lose some livability. And we want to continue walking that line to produce dogs that naturally retrieve, but are naturally steady and naturally back other dogs, that love to swim and can cuddle up on the couch in the evening, play well with our children, play well with other dogs, that ease of livability all the way around, not just with people, but with their pack, if you will, because we have more than one dog, guys. Got to have more than one dog when you've got a breeding program, and they all need to be able to get along. If they can't, they got to go.
If you remember back, or if you weren't there, I would definitely go back and see if you can find it. We're going to do another one here, not too terribly long. The pedigree YAWA. Lots of people thought that was pretty interesting. I would love to do another. What I am fighting through right now is the pedigree program. I had to update it, and it's different. And so I have to redo a lot of stuff, which I have not had time to sit down and do. So I can't create the pedigrees, and I can't go through the form. I'm not as fluent about going through it because they changed the way it works a little bit. So I'm like, crap, I have to click over here now. And, oh, wait a second, how do you do that? So I want to get past that crap.
Needs to get a little more.
We'll do another one. But that's one of the big things that we look for to help find this balance. So it involves some level of line breeding, some level of consistency in breeding, and recognizing the dogs that make up that pedigree and what those specific dogs' genes offer to the pool, and then looking at what the dogs are in front of you and taking those dogs to be more consistently bred, and then some level of line breeding, not super tightly bred, but some level of line breeding to shrink the gene pool a little, providing you a more consistent number of dogs that are in there. So all of those things being taken into consideration, I want to start back kind of at the beginning. If we look at the legacy aspect of things, or kind of this path that these specific dogs, which is definitely the direction our program has gone and where it started. So Rex produced Nicks, and he would be the first offspring of that. Now, some of you may know, some may not have been following. There was a shooter one We told that story not too long ago, and it always hurts.
And it gets confusing. Don't
Yeah,
reuse names.
don't reuse names, except for the guy that always reuses the same name, and then I don't know why. There's one guy, he's got dog. I think their name's Star or Penny or something. And Star, every single dog that he only has one dog at a time, and all of them are named Star. But don't do that either. It's just silly. Shooter 1, we talked about. He was a Derby Rex puppy, and which is the same breeding as Nick's. He was a nice dog. Liked him. Spent a lot of time training him. I had him and one other dog at that point in time. They got a lot of work, went to work with me every day. They got ran in the morning or in the evening after I was off work, and they did a lot. Now, also, Shooter 1 was a pain in the butt. He was an excited piddler, and he was a little bit wired for sound, and I think we fixed the excited, and I'm talking ridiculous excited piddling, folks. You could just, look at him from across the room, and he would, start writing his name all over the floor, okay? It was just everywhere he went, he was piddling everywhere. And we fixed it, when he was 12 to 14 months old. Yeah, yes, months with an S.
So when people ask us, how do I get my puppy to stop piddling in the house at 10 to 12 weeks? I'm like,
I don't know. It may take a while.
Might
Some
take
of them
a
are
while.
different.
Patience.
But we fixed it with some creative out-of-the-box training stuff, which was giving him a focus outside so we could get him to potty first. And as long as he pottied first, he was good for a while. It was that initial have to pee, it's exciting,
interacting
so on and so forth.
with him very calmly and, ignoring him ultimately until he got a chance to go to the bathroom. And his increased bladder control definitely helped as well.
But he had a lot of things going for him.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't perfect, just like none of them are, but he was good. It was a duck search monster. Okay, check. He swimming monster, retrieving monster, loved to point. He hunted Texas when I was guiding down there with me for months. I actually have a picture of him holding a pheasant in his mouth, locked up on point, which some people have seen this. He's not the only dog ever in the whole world to do this, but it takes a lot of focus. You got to have a strong retriever. They're not going to drop the bird. They can hold on to it, and they can smell, lock up on point, and it's a cool thing. So I got a picture of him doing that. It's all of these things. It was just this cool dog. He died. We talked about that. You have to go listen to the other episode. But we repeated that breeding, tried for another, and we kept 2 puppies out of the bunch, okay? We've got a video on this, folks. It's a bad idea. Yeah, we repeat it on a regular basis. I don't know why. Just gluttons for punishment, maybe. I don't know.
We just love puppies so much.
Something. So we had Tex and Nix. Decided to keep Punky because that was Mama's baby, and I was raising Tex, and Mama won, whatever, her dog.
I mean, they were both really nice dogs.
They were, yeah. So Tex went to that would be one of the ones that I would say had the least true. One was better than the other. We cut one for specific reasons or not. It was just we only needed one, and Mom was more attached to Nix, and he was a great dog. There was no doubt about it. He was doing all the things. He ran his natural ability test at 5 months old, did fantastic, moved on from there to more advanced stuff, just really natural with everything he did, and had a lot of similarities to Shooter 1, but was not the same dog.
We didn't struggle with the excited piddling
No,
thing.
He doesn't do that. He doesn't look the same. He doesn't act the same. He's just totally different. And
he's a longer, bigger, taller dog. Shooter 1 was a lot more compact. He was a lot
Rex.
more. And Nix looks a lot more like Darby. So just the difference in genetics for sure.
And that breeding was a fair amount of an outcross. Very minimal. I think his coefficient of inbreeding is 3.54 6.426764. No, I'm just making the rest of that. I think 3.5%, something like that. And that's really low. So, it just means there's a lot of potential options there. You do different breedings, you're going to see different stuff. And although the dogs can uniformly turn out good, they can also not be the same at all from litter to litter. And that's what we saw with that. It was completely different. So we had that. Nix was bred to Vino. Vino was a dog from Sharpshooter's Kennel. And really sweet, teeny tiny little thing. She had only 2 litters and had some fertility issues. Should produce a litter 3. We thought maybe it was something with Nix or something else. Then she was bred with Shooter, produced a litter of 4. And then when she was spayed, we found out she had 1 ovary. So
struggled with some fertility issues.
Only kicking eggs from one side, I think, would be how that would work. Which would make sense why she had half-size litters. 6 puppies would have been normal. 8 puppies would have been even better-ish. Anything over 6 we count as a win from a litter size. And anything over 10 is just insanity. So 6 to 10 would be the window that we would prefer. But we had that litter and, again, produced Vex. After Vex, which Vex was fun. From a little puppy on, we had kind of a fun time frame there with training. Charlie was working for us at that point in time, and he had a puppy, and I had a puppy.
And I had a puppy.
And Kat had a puppy. Look at that. Another time where we raised 2 puppies the exact same age at the exact same time. See a pattern here, folks. But
don't do it.
Don't do it. God dang. We did it, and we had a lot of competitions.
And over.
Yeah,
and
lots of this story repeats. So we had lots of competitions, lots of fun things. Now, that creates a huge problem, okay? When you have multiple dogs at one time, especially when you're looking objectively and honestly at the dogs, it gets super easy to nitpick stuff. Oh, well, you're behind. Oh, well, you're not doing as good as you're doing. Oh, well, you're better at this than you are at that. And so on and so forth. The nitpicking begins. Now, does it ultimately matter if one dog is doing things at 4 months old and the next dog does it at 6 months old? Nope. Except for in the moment when you go, why is my puppy, quote unquote, 2 months behind? So it's a struggle. But we saw the potential in both of them, and it's because they weren't that far apart from each other, but you do see some of those things. Now, interestingly enough, those 2 dogs that were raised at the same time both turned out to be really nice dogs, Grit and Vex.
Mm-hmm.
They produced a Muddy. Now, the next dog down that line, I'm going to skip, fast forward just a smidgen just to make a point down on this part of it here. The next dog down the line is Thunder, okay? In that picture specifically. Now, between Vex and Thunder, we washed out a lot of dogs. I'm talking a lot of dogs. Now, probably more dogs than the average person will own in a lifetime. I mean, that's almost guaranteed, more dogs. So, I bumped that, but I think we're good. Trying to think here. We had 2 dogs named Casanova. Again,
well, I really like the name. Kept one. He didn't work out.
Didn't work out. So we're like, let's try it again. And because we didn't keep the dog, but it's still Casanovas. And we had help me here.
We had a couple Rips. We had Bleak. We had Nash. We had Dash. Fancy Fox.
And those are all dogs that we washed out that were both males and females. But in and
of
itself, no, that's fine. Just males alone, though, it was like 7 or 8 dogs. The Legend is in there. Who else is in there? Zephyr, yeah. So 7 or 8 males in between keeping Vex and keeping and breeding anyone else, which happened to be next to Thunder. But when we did that breeding specifically, we bred Grit and Vex. We kept Muddy from the first breeding, and she is she's one of my favorite dogs as far as all of the things. And I think for me, deep down, it really helps how much I really bond with and like a dog, based on how easy they are to raise as puppies. We do have a fair amount going on, especially if you have multiple puppies at one time on occasion, like we do right now. We have Clay, and we have it's virtually always, okay? We pick a puppy, and we're like, yep, this is the one we're going to raise, and it's like, oh, another litter. Look, there's a puppy. It's so cute.
But to be fair, and so listen to my answer and my reasoning.
I'm listening.
Yeah, so we don't just breed dogs to breed dogs.
That's 100% the truth.
It's not like we're like, oh, let's just have another litter for the heck of it.
How much is that doggy in the window?
We are developing a breeding program trying to move in the direction of improving the breed and finding the next best dog.
We don't make a pair unless I'm interested in getting a dog.
Yeah, and I'm like, I really want a puppy out of this, and I really want a puppy out of that, and I really want a puppy out of that. And Ethan's like, well, maybe we could wait till they're repeated breeding. And I'm like, I have patience issues. So
to say the least.
And I usually get what I want, so thus we
have
2 puppies again.
Yep. I think
You kicked it, so, like, I'm almost half off the screen now. There we go. Kind of.
Much mo better. Yeah, so here we are. We've got Vex, who super nice dog, and I had a lot of fun with him. So put a master on him. Also, we put one on Grit at the same time. So I ran both of them younger-ish. And Vex was easy. So you want to talk about Kat running Nick's and how he was a turd and whatever. And it came out and I was like, Kat, you need to run Vex for something. And she took and ran him. Was it just a utility test or was it a hunt test or what?
It was a utility test. So
ran him as utility
I was doing
test
my apprenticeship for judging, and
I had to have a dog titled in a specific amount of time.
I don't know if I had to.
I had to
run on, and I think he had to prize. Yeah.
Prize, yeah. I was like, well, Vex is the closest thing that we have at this point in time that would be ready. He's still lacking his duck search a little bit, but he should be good to go. And she's like, oh, I don't know about his field, and because she's thinking, well, you're thinking. It's going to be like Nick's, like handling a dog is going to be like Nick's. I mean, it's just... Keep
in mind, guys, too, this is in October that I'm running him, and Aiden was born in November. So I'm very pregnant. And it's very pregnant running this dog in the field.
Yes, and he was nothing less of a perfect gentleman.
He was such a gentleman.
Yeah, everything. Perfect force. All straight across the board.
Until his duck search, which then affected some of the other scores. But yeah, he did really, really well. So.
Yes, and I would say I talked about earlier in this that running dogs gives me the jitters. And so Vex's little story with running his hunt test, I ran him early, so sub 2 years. And went 2 weekends, which I usually go to double-double, so he had 8 opportunities, which should have finished him on 90% of the dogs that I run. A very good pass ratio, and he struggled a little bit. Dumb mistakes, not blown up, just like handle 3 birds clean, then hop on another one and out. So I said, I'm done with this crap. You're going to go run. He ended up with 2 or 3 passes or something out of the 8, which wasn't good. 2 passes out of 8 maybe. But I was going with other dogs too, so it was easy to bring him along. Pulled him, brought him in, ran him the next spring. He went 4 in a row in 1 weekend, and it was just like, okay, and it was relaxing. It wasn't 1 weekend. It was 2 weekends because I went to just a double. So he got 2 opportunities 1 weekend, 2 opportunities next weekend, whatever it was. It was just relaxing. You just let him go. There he goes. He hunts. He does his thing. There's no jitters. There's no nothing. He just is a complete gentleman all the time. So absolutely love him. He is also not a perfect dog. You go, okay, well, how is he not perfect? I'm going to have to think on that one for a while. There's a couple different things that I would improve on with him, and
He could be a little bigger.
he
A little bigger.
weighs 63 pounds. What?
Oh, so he's
bigger do you
fat
want?
right now.
He's a 60-pound male. So I
And
guess
he's a
if
little
you want
short, maybe.
Okay, maybe. I don't know. What do we want out of a dog size-wise? I don't even know, I guess. What are we looking for?
Well, when you look at the picture, Muddy's bigger than him.
Yes. So we need smaller females is
Maybe
what you
that's the
mean. I
problem.
think that's it. It really, with him, it comes down to a couple things that he does that are faults, are strengths and weaknesses all at the same time. He's overly cooperative, okay? And that falls into that ease of handle, and he's just willing to please, he's willing to work, and he has kind of a yo-yo style running pattern. This is not something I taught him. This is something that is ingrained in his brain because
Vino
he
did
is
it too.
Yes, because he is his mother's son, all right? Genetics are a strange thing. They pass to the offspring. He runs out and hunts and does fine, and then he comes all the way back to you and looks at you like, "Hey, are we ready to go?" Yeah.
Are you still
go.
there?
Go hunt, kid. And so he does that. Now, he makes good passes, and they are productive. He finds lots of birds. He does a nice job with that, but it's a lot of outing and then all the way back in. Now, you may be thinking about that going, sounds perfect.
Apply that to a duck search, though.
Yep. So in that category, it sucks. He goes out, and then he comes back. Okay. Well, then you've got to send him because he's going to stand here and go, well, I went out and looked. I mean, what else do you want from me? Well, you stand there for a while, and you stand there for a while, and you stand there for a while, and then he finally goes, maybe I could go back out. And then he might make another push over here. But it just is kind of slow, and it's not, and it needs help, and it needs encouragement, and it needs all these things. Now, could he eventually get there with enough training? Yes, that it requires quality duck search work. Where Nick's, it was like, goodbye, and then it would be like, please come back.
Yeah, the judges be like, okay, you can call your dog, and be like,
yeah, get
we'll
the
see
boat.
about that.
Get the kayak. But it would be, that would be one thing, is he's almost overly cooperative. So now the interesting thing about all of this is you fast forward to Thunder. He's very cooperative, but more independent about the way that he acts. So you can call him, and here he is. But he's out there doing his thing, and he isn't checking in with you. He's doing it in a reasonable range, but he's not coming in to say hi. He's just out there hunting until you want him. So you're able to move past some of those things, but I would say Vex realistically has the least number of things that I could find that I would count as negatives. I mean, there are a few things, and the more that I would think about it, but he is what we are attempting at this point to do a bunch of line breedings on. Vex, daughter, Quest, to Thunder is what produced Legacies. So that's a line breeding on Vex with a daughter to a grandson. The lines there are completely different. So you get the small percentage, Vex is in there, and then Vex is in there, but everything else is way outcrossed. So it's still not in a tight coefficient of inbreeding, but then you jump down the line to Muddy, okay? Now we can find a few more things here fairly easily. Kat mentioned them. Size-wise is one. She's giant. I mean, for a female,
she's a big girl.
she's 60 pounds.
And she's always fat, so she's more than that.
I think that's probably her fat. If she was trim, she holds weight well. That's a plus. And
she's
a
got
drawback.
an insane coat too. Like
She's got a really good coat. She's tall and long. Yeah, Shock would. How about Shock? Shock would be a good dog. She's a muddy puppy, just like Thunder's a muddy puppy and Clay is a muddy puppy. I love muddy puppies. She was, when testing her, she was happy-footed. She got that from her mother. She reminds me Tish more of a more relaxed, more poised, if you will, Grit. She's got a lot of similarities to Grit with a little bit like she's an improvement of Grit. That would be the best way that I could explain Mud. Where there are some of the puppies that come out of those breedings that I feel like are more Vex-like. She's definitely fallen into the more Grit-like category, but size is a big one for her. I think she's too big because whatever direction you're breeding, it's only going to continue. So if you take small dogs, breed them with small dogs, you're going to get smaller dogs, and big dogs get bigger. So you've got to kind of find that happy medium without breeding too big to too small, or you end up with bite and head and development issues where stuff gets crossed and you get weirdness. But Muddy has a few things, but is probably one of the nicest females that we have thus far and have had as far as producing quality dogs. I love Muddy puppies. Every single one of them that come back in, they top the charts as far as learning, doing, enjoying all of the things. It's fun to work with them, especially the more of them that we get in. They just do all of it and are always there, loving it, willing to train and work, but have the ability to turn it off. And that's where I look at Thunder. He's got a lot of really good things going for him, right? But I would love for him to be bigger. He's little. He's very little. Now, he's going to mature. You're seeing some of that, except for when you see him sit next to his mother. He looks tiny, tiny. But I'm just starting to see it, and that picture was one of them where he was sitting there. And I was like, oh, look at that. You got some muscles starting to come in, buddy. Those shoulders, and I don't think dogs really have pec muscles, but it's like the chest across there is widening out. So he looks good. You know, he looks really good. And looks like we've got some scammers bopped in there or something. If they become too much, folks, we'll kick them out. But, you know, him size-wise. Now, the next thing about him is he's a little more vocal. And that's something that I would say with Muddy. They are not noisy in their kennels. They are not noisy in their crates or around the house.
But excitement-based.
Excitement, yeah. So we go to hunt, and Muddy would arf, 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 arf through the field. Thunder is not much better when it comes to excitement. Like, you get ready, and he's amped, and he's ready to roll, and he's got to vocalize about that. And that would be something that I will breed away from. And it's Quest is a good way to do that.
Quest is crazy quiet. I know if you watch some of her puppy stuff, she has a little bit of like fun, sassy attitude, which I'm seeing a little bit out of Legacy already.
100%.
But from like an excitement standpoint, in her kennel standpoint, she's like a little kitty cat. She is so quiet. She's so calm, well-mannered, well-behaved. So really excited about what Legacy is going to be, that cross between Quest and Thunder.
And then that brings us all the way down to Little Miss Legacy. And I mean, I think, folks, the biggest takeaway that I can help or I can provide or I can talk about here is there's been a lot of washing out and there's been a lot of objective honesty, okay? As much as these dogs are part of our family and we are trying to produce a breeding program, if we're going to do it in this lifetime, we have to only keep what falls in the category of improving what we have, moving in the direction of better. And it's everything you see is genetic. And I will preach this till they put me in a hole in the ground. Everything is genetic.
Which we just talked about. I mean, when we talk about the dogs, those 6 dogs, you're like, well, Muddy is a improvement on Grit. And Vex has a lot of Vino's characteristics. Yep. Nyx was more Darby. Shooter was more Rex. Mm-hmm. You know, we're seeing out of Thunder a little bit of that vocalization that we can see out of Muddy in exciting times. And Little Legacy, you know, it's really early to tell exactly, but we do see a little bit of that fun, sassy attitude that we see out of Quest. She is not as chill as my Trix puppy, which was also a Quest puppy. She takes a little more to settle down in the evenings.
Or as chill as old Clay. Clay is a
Clay
cool
is
dude.
such a little love bug. Oh my gosh. So it's interesting to see those genetics because, like Ethan said, what did you say? Everything's genetic.
Genetics.
I thought you were gonna.
Sorry, I was reading.
I thought it was setting him up for
everything is genetic.
Yes.
Mad scientist style. Everything, absolutely everything, and it's one of those things that as soon as I think, no, this was developed. We didn't put enough time in. They're all the puppies. Exactly the same. And that's part of the selection process too. Some dogs you fall into the category if you're like, hey, this dog seems fantastic. Great. Love all the things. We can do a breeding to this that improves on. This is the complement too. And then you get into the puppies and you go, okay, well, I see the exact same thing over and over again. Well, it's time to move you along. We're going to move on to greener pastures. That's it. Now, move along, folks. Don't misunderstand that. Means provide a perfect for forever home. That is our goal. The dogs never go anywhere else once they leave us. Now, there's been a small selection of times that dogs have come back to us or that we've heard that have been moved on or something in that essence. It's small number of times. We're not perfect, okay? But with our contracts and everything else, we get the dogs back so that we can then rehome them. Maybe that's a control freak side of things. Guilty, but we want to know where they're at. I feel like with our experience and everything that we can do is we're going to have the best opportunity to put them in the best opportunity for them. So
yes, for sure. So something that I wanted to mention about legacy, get my own little plug in here is
right there. It says something. That was the question. That's what I was trying to.
I don't know.
Oh, that was the super chat. So we'll get to that in just a second.
But so if you've been following along with our YouTube channel at all, if you subscribe, you've probably seen some of the newest content with Clay that Ethan is doing. A little revised puppy training series. I mean, we have other puppy training series. You can check them out in playlists with Quest and Rogue and Thunder and Shock and Tricks, and oh my gosh, we've got a lot of them, right? Well, we talked about doing a puppy training series with Legacy and ultimately decided that unless she throws like a crazy curveball about something at me, that then we can do kind of a standalone, hey, this is an issue that some people have, let's shoot a video about it with her to help educate and teach people. We didn't really want to do the dueling, battling puppy training series at the same time. So instead, what I did was created a IGTV live training series with her, and I've done 2 live training series so far. So if you follow us on YouTube, but want to check us out on social media, on Instagram, you can follow along with her training series that I'm going to be doing little live sessions with as we come along. Everybody,
I just figured out we could do
which
this.
puppy is better?
Yeah, which puppy? Which puppy is better? Come on now.
The harsh truth.
The harsh truth. No, it's just. Come on now.
Come on, guys. Give Legacy a little love. But anyway, so if you guys want to see how her training series is going, you'll have to bop over to our social media page on Instagram.
Does that share across to the old
It doesn't go onto
Facebooker?
Facebook because it's IGTV. It's not a story post because it would be too long. It's a 15-minute training session or something. Stories are like a minute. So it has to be on IGTV. And I don't know of a way to put it on Facebook. I mean, maybe there's a way, but
I have found a way that you could stream live to YouTube and Facebook at the same time. But I have not found anything that really allows you to do the Instagram or streaming with tied in with anything else. So,
Legacy's coming up in the world.
Okay, so while y'all, the people have spoken, we're going to do a few of these super chats in here.
Well, that's in the way.
It is very much in the way.
There we go. Perfect.
All right, so I think that's the first one. There's Chris.
Okay, Chris Polchney said, I know it will be towards the end of the year, but wanted to go ahead and ask. My wife and I are 2 months from our baby's due date. Congratulations. How soon, when can your 2-year-old female GSP be introduced, who is only inside to crate at night, makes little to no noise in the crate, ask questions. Okay.
You asking
I think
when
that
to
what you're
introduce the
asking,
puppy to the baby?
yes, except the the dog is 2-year-old short hair that it sounds like isn't an inside dog.
Not puppy,
Typically
sorry, to the dog.
is just, crated inside at night, but is kind of part of the family as well. So that's a good question.
Never.
That's a good question, and we get asked that a lot. And I would say that we are more on the strict side. We have other friends, too, that have dogs and babies, and they are a little more lenient in the way that they've allowed their... What?
It's 50-50.
Perfect. A little more lenient in the way that they let their dogs interact with their children. I think that our situation is a little bit different because we have more dogs than the average Joe. So we try and control the situation as much as possible. Ethan's a control freak. He's already claimed it. I'm not much better. But those little babies are pretty fragile and delicate in the beginning stages, and dogs can be very gregarious and unpredictable and not know their own strength, and we definitely don't want little babies getting hurt. Even Cade, who's 7 months old now and can sit up on his own, well, when he's sitting up, he's still pretty darn wobbly, and a dog, unsupervised, that's just running around the house could easily knock him over or run past him fast, where then he kind of tries to look and falls over. So when our dogs are out and about with our kids, they're typically on dog beds, and then the kids can approach and interact with them or leave. And then it also we can tell the kids, like, Aiden, hey, time to leave the dogs alone a little bit. But I would say when you do the introduction, just do it in a controlled manner. Don't let your dogs be gallivanting around the house in an overexuberant situation, and then be holding your baby so that, if you need to make, a quick change to the situation, that you're able to do that.
It's perfect. Next one here.
Simple Auto Solutions. You should touch on your legacy of content creation. This must add a whole extra level of work. I guess that's definitely another take on the legacy that we've created, if you will, the enormous YouTube library of content, as well as our social media content that we have. It does create a lot of work, which is why we really appreciate our patrons who help support us creating that content, from the equipment to the editing process. I would say, I don't know.
It's a lot of work. I mean, it looks like a lot of work, and it is a lot of work. I mean, it's hours that we put in. I enjoy doing it. Kat enjoys doing it. And what we, to be completely honest, would love more time to be able to devote to it. And this is the biggest thing that we struggle, because when we have live animals, right, I mean, they take the number one priority, and then keeping up with the communication monster that is social media and questions and comments and Patreon and emails,
text messages, phone calls.
Yeah, that communication monster would be second priority, and then third priority is creating more content. And it's
and throw the kids in there somewhere too.
I'm just
you're just talking about the business.
Work.
I know.
Work. But we have been trying to get set up well enough, including trying to hire folks, somebody to be here full time to kind of manage they can have camera equipment ready and set up instead of, and I can walk into doing a training session and things of that nature, or Kat, vice versa.
To just be more efficient with our time so that we can do more.
The same with photography, all of that stuff. And then what it comes down to is we move in the direction of getting additional help, and then something happens with just standard life stuff, sickness or change of situation. So we lose employees and then get new employees, and that requires our time and focus to help retrain and do and or fill in the gaps. And then
so it pulls from some of the content creation and the other responsibilities that we have to get put on the back burner for a while.
Same thing with being in the middle of BFE. We struggle with childcare. We've tried daycares, and it's an insane amount of travel back and forth for us, going to and from and to and from.
Since we work from home, it's not like we work in town.
Correct. So you add those things up, and in all honesty, and what we are trying to do on a regular basis is move more the direction of being able to create content. That's it.
And
answer questions better for y'all. Do a better job of filming hunting trips and adventures and how we do that with our dogs.
And I will say, we don't get me wrong, we love creating the content for you guys. We love thinking about new ways to present that content, new spins on some of the training sessions, so that, we're constantly creating something with a little new vibe, and continuing to learn and grow ourselves so that we can apply some of the new things that we've learned to old methods. But also sometimes we're like, oh, I would really love to just throw this bird for my puppy right now.
Yeah.
But we don't have all the camera equipment set up, so we want to show this for the first time so it's authentic and real and live, so that because we can't recreate that. It's not like I can throw a bird for Clay, or Ethan can throw a bird for Clay and then see how that went and then do it again and get the same reaction, so that we can work through that or show you guys that. So sometimes we're like, I just need a camera strapped to my face all the time.
100%.
But
next question here, Kelly said, say more about vocalizing excitement. Jack seems to know when we're en route to daycare and yips the last 3 miles. Yeah, that's a thing, Kelly, and especially with dogs that are hyper intelligent, which we've talked about is a problem with the old Jaxer.
I was going to say, we talked about Shooter 1 too.
Yes.
He was that way. We could take a different path and drive and turn around and drive a different way, and he would know the moment we pulled on the gravel road headed to the old kennel. He would start going nuts.
The last 2 miles or mile and a half, 2 miles, whatever.
So excited to get there because he knew we were going to work. We were going to train. We were going to do something exciting and wonderful. They are smart, and they just know. And in anticipation of that, you can do things like, hey, we're going to put a bark collar on so that you don't act like that on the way. Interrupting the behavior in a timely fashion and anticipating that it's going to happen so that you can interrupt it and redirect it before it even starts is the best way to uncondition the behavior.
It's good.
Look,
far?
50. Oh, I thought Legacy was winning for a second, like a half a second, and then it went. Did you end the poll?
No, it just is hidden for a second here.
I think you ended it. Oh, no, there it is.
Come on now.
Quick, somebody vote for Legacy so then we can end the poll.
34, 50, folks. You guys are too politically correct. So love it all. Too darn smart is the case. 100%. Pops are at 50-50
now. I know.
All right, folks. Let's go ahead and whoop.
Too far.
No, there it is. That's what I wanted. Let's go ahead and end the poll. Thank you for everyone
we got to win
on
a tie, or we got to leave it at a tie.
Well,
we can't let Legacy or Clay have their little feelings hurt.
It would just be Kat getting her feelings hurt when Clay won. So, Oh, glasses with a camera in them now. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. But we work really hard to have high quality video and audio. So we'd have to really look into seeing what quality camera, cuz GoPro stuff is not always ideal either. From
GoPro.
From the audio and video quality comparatively to what we typically put out, and we have come a long way. If you go back and watch some of the first puppy playlists with Mac. We were shooting those on our cell phones. The audio was crap, and there was a lot of times where people were like, hey, I can't hear you at all in this video. And we're like, yeah, we know. So we've come a long way from that.
I can't hear me either.
We've come a long way from that point, and we hope that you guys enjoyed the content and the quality of the content, not the quality of the production of the content.
Production value.
There we go, whatever.
Yeah. Alrighty, folks. It's been fun. It's been real.
It's been really fun.
It's been really fun. We've enjoyed talking with you. We've got some fun stuff coming up moving forward. We are going to be pulling in some guest speakers, and when we do that, Kat and I will take turns and split off. One of the folks that I've got on the hook, hopefully sooner rather than later, it sounded like he got sick. He was actually supposed to be this week and got sick, so we're going to do everything live still. So we had to postpone, but we'll be talking with the folks at Kent, talk about ammo and where has it all gone, or why is it not here? And, some of the other things they have upcoming, some other cool stuff along that line, and the ability, again, to ask questions live with whatever pops in your brain. We'll ask them. And then
I plan on having Courtney from Bird Dog Babe on. I don't know if you guys follow her podcast, but it's really interesting, and you definitely should. If you are interested, I was just on her podcast this week talking about New Year's goals and resolutions. So I would check that out. But she's going to join me on our podcast at some point this year when our schedules align, and we'll come up with a really cool topic that'll be fun to talk about too.
Going to pull in some folks with pheasants forever, quail forever, to talk about habitat as well as their specific organization and how cool it is. Kat and I are actually life members of Pheasants and Pheasants Forever, Quail Forever, because we believe in what they're doing. It's a great cause for something that is a huge part of what we do. Period. That's a good way to say that. And then pulling in when we can, I may be able to sweet talk the old man if I can get him to do it. That's our reproductive specialist to talk about some of that. We'll pull in some people when we can, as well as other dog trainers, just to discuss theories and concepts and all of it that we can. Exciting stuff for 2022, folks. I hope you're ready. And that will be basically all we've got for this evening for y'all. I'm the guy with the pink gun.
I'm Kat, the dog trainer.
We'll